Hey, good morning, Metropolis. It's now 5 after the hour of 6 a.m. in the big monster city.
Come on! Let's get pumped!
I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot! What can I say? The camera loves me.
Shall we begin? After you, Junior.
Oh, and I left it up. I'm a horrible producer. Where's Kaleb Koho when you need him? Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 2 of Logged It. I'm your host, Brzakala. We've got a great panel here this evening to talk about horror sequels. One person is not here yet. Kaleb Boatman is on the way. He's a little late. He's traveling through the backwoods of Iowa, I believe. So he will be home soon and will be here soon. But around the panel, we've got Matt Queller. Matt, how are you doing this evening?
Doing good. Looking forward to being here. I watched the first episode last week. Looks like you guys had a bunch of fun. So
it was a good time. We also have the host of Your List Sucks, Kirk Kolkowski. Kirk, hello, welcome. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me. Last week's episode was fun. The format seems pretty cool. You guys give a good idea here, so hopefully I don't ruin it for you in episode 2.
That's fair. And we also have Ethan Beller here this evening. Ethan, you don't have to worry about Kirk. He can't hurt you tonight. He can't hurt you, so you can say whatever you want, and it'll be maybe okay. It depends on what the rest of us think. But how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. Well, I ride that high of feeling like Kirk wants to kill me. So if we can make that happen tonight, I'll be pretty happy. But I'm always excited to talk horror movies, and the show does look really fun. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Yeah, we are the only show on the internet this evening talking about horror sequels. Couldn't tell you about any other channels in the community that are doing the same exact thing that we are after we announced we were doing it. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, then that's great. Stay here. So this is how the show works. We're letterbox based. If you missed last week's show, we made a letterboxed account, an official Multiplex Logged It letterboxed account. I'm going to bring it up right now. Here it is. Go and follow that letterboxed. It's literally just Multiplex Logged It. I'll probably follow you back on it if you go and follow it. But we're going to keep track of everything we do on the show on that letterboxed. So be on the lookout for everything that gets updated on there. So, like I said, letterbox based. We're going to talk about the stuff that we've been watching this week, stuff we liked, stuff we didn't like. We're going to talk about the horror sequels in honor of both A Quiet Place 2 and Conjuring 3 coming out. So lots of horror going on in the cinemas right now. Spiral just came out too, so lots of stuff. And then we will also talk about our movie of the month at the end of the show, which I'm very excited to talk about. So we're going to start off the show the way that we are going to every week, and that is we're going to talk about our favorite movie that we logged this week. We can talk about both a new film we saw for the first time or something we rewatched. So, Matt, why don't you start us off with your favorite movie that you logged this week?
I watched a lot of good stuff this week, but I think I'm going to talk about a documentary, The Battered Bastards of Baseball. So I know this is the documentary about the true story of Bing Russell, Kurt Russell's father, and about how from 1973 to 1977, he pretty much kind of formed a little lower than minor league baseball team after one of the baseball teams had their minor team move out of, I think it was, where was it? Portland. Yeah, the Portland Mavericks was the team. So he pretty much kind of tells the story pretty much where he just got tired of the major league system kind of ruining the sport and what he thought. So he kind of just opened it up to anyone, pretty much kind of like the film The Replacements, where he pretty much just had a ragtag team of people who came and started playing for him. And it's a really fun, just a great bunch of characters, and they kind of just go in, kind of follow the team, and it kind of pretty much came like Portland kind of really supported it. People actually started coming to the stadium again. It's a really great story. You got some footage of Kurt Russell actually played on the team for a little bit too. So it was a really interesting documentary about kind of like underdogs, kind of just like playing for the love of the game, and I don't want to kind of spoil it, but they actually kind of have a run-in with the major leagues, and it gets kind of interesting. There's some legal battles and all sorts of other stuff. But yeah, it's really a fascinating documentary. I'd seen it before, but I was looking for something kind of just to throw on to watch with the wife for a little bit, and landed on this. So it was a really good time.
Is this streaming somewhere?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Okay, it's on Netflix. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I love baseball. I'm not like Cody, where I'm like watching all the games all the time and the highlights and everything. But I love baseball. I like going to games. I like watching it. And you had me at Russell. I'm there for that. Any connection to Kurt Russell, I'm there. No, that sounds really interesting. And if it's on Netflix, I haven't seen a documentary in a minute, so that might be something that I definitely have to check out. Kirk, have you heard of this or seen it?
I have. I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm really interested. I love baseball stories. The older I get, the more, like, if you follow baseball, there's been a lot of rule changes over the past couple of years, and I'm kind of losing interest in the game itself just because things are changing so much. I love like baseball history and culture. I think now more than I actually like the game. So stories like this are just a lot of fun. I love this kind of stuff. So that's something I'll definitely want to check out.
All right. And Ethan, what about you?
No, I've never heard of it, and I am not a fan of baseball, or I'm not like a sports guy, but so it's hard for me to get excited about a sports-based documentary. But Matt did a good job selling it, because I also love the Russells, and that the second you said Kurt Russell's dad and Kurt Russell are involved, like that makes me very interested. So I might actually check this one out.
Yeah, I can say I'm not a big sports guy either, but I loved it. And it's like I think it's like just at 90 minutes or a little bit shorter than that, so it's a really easy watch. So yeah,
that even sells me harder than that. So I didn't get to watch a ton this week because, well, let me rephrase. I didn't get to watch a ton of good things this week because I'm studying for Fandom, and there's a lot of shit in Fandom. So when we get to the next question, I'll have lots to say. But for me, the best thing that I probably watched this week, honestly, was I went and saw A Quiet Place Part 2, and I friggin' loved it. I'm not going to spoil anything because it is so new. I don't want to give anything away, but I am so glad they waited to put this thing in theaters and didn't release it on VOD. This was a great theatrical experience. I know this might be sacrilegious because I've seen a lot of reviews are kind of like, some people either really, really like it or they're quite mixed on it. I think I liked it more than the first one. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought all the performances were great. Cillian Murphy being added to the cast is always a good thing for me. I think he's great in everything. So I really enjoyed A Quiet Place Part 2. And funny enough, there were like 7 14-year-old children sitting in the couple rows behind me and Maggie. Quite silent the whole time. One of them dropped a phone in the middle and they all screamed. But other than that, nothing. Not too bad at all. And I was very happy. I saw a tweet that was like, just imagine how Christopher Nolan feels right now that John Krasinski is the one who was able to welcome people back into theaters and not him with Tenet. And I thought that was very, very funny. So yeah, no, I loved A Quiet Place Part 2. I want to go see it again. The theater that I saw it in was a smaller screen. I want to go see it in like IMAX with like the big picture and the big sound too, because I really enjoyed it. Matt, I feel like I remember seeing you log this. Did you check it out? What'd you think?
Yeah, I went and saw it. This could have very easily been my pick, but I had a feeling someone else was going to say it. But yeah, I loved it. I loved the opening where it kind of has like the day one of the incident. I love that. Yeah, I'm really kind of looking forward to it. I just hope I'm sure there'll probably be a part 3 down the line and see what happens. So yeah, it was really good.
Kirk, did you see it, and or did you like it? What did you think?
I haven't seen it yet. I am going to go. No one else in the house wants to see it with me, so I'll probably just go sneak out as soon as I get a chance here and go check it out. But no, I'm really interested. I love the first one. I think there's a lot of ways they can go with it, so I'm really excited to see where they take it. And I'm just at this point now, just really excited. Anytime I get a chance to go to the theater, it doesn't have to be good. It'll get a free pass because I'm in the movie theater.
That's fair. Ethan, did you get to check it out?
I did not. First of all, I just want to say, let's put some respect on Adam Wingard's name, because Godzilla vs. Kong is what welcomed us back.
That's fair.
Christopher Nolan needs to know who brought us back, and it was Adam Wingard. But no, I haven't seen this yet. I like the first one a lot. I don't love it, so I'm not like super. Oh, there he is. I'm not. I'm not super excited to see it. Like I want to see it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not like dying to see it, but I will probably see it in the next few days or week.
Awesome. Boatman, did you see A Quiet Place too?
No, I was in Georgia this morning.
Oh, that's fair. Do you want to see Quiet Place too?
Yeah, it looks good.
All right. Awesome. Okay, thank you. Kirk, let's move over to you. What's your favorite movie you logged this week?
So my kind of routine over the past couple weeks is I watch everything I need to watch for Your List Sucks, and I don't want to spoil anything, so I don't rank it until the show's over. Most of my list right now of the past week is everything I talked about last week. So I will talk about those because everybody's heard me talk about those. I will talk about a movie I watched, and I know Boat watched it too. A movie called Critical Care, directed by Sidney Lumet. This is I love Sidney Lumet. He's one of my favorite directors, and I'm trying to get through his entire filmography. This one's a little more obscure. I hadn't heard of this until recently, and it's a really solid movie. It's just one of those ones where I think he elevates it. His style. You see his touches on it. I think he elevates a lot of performances. It starred James Spader as a doctor who's kind of stuck in a situation. He's an ICU doctor, and his patients are basically being kept alive by the system long past the time that they should be, or even still, there's anything left to them, just for the hospital to milk their insurance. And it's just about that controversy of him dealing with that. Spader's great in it. Spader always comes off real creepy to me, and this is definitely a role that could be creepy. He's kind of like a womanizing, doctor who takes advantage of his position, but he's still, there's a lot of heart to his performance. It's, I think, my favorite performance I've ever seen of his. Helen Mirren is in it. She kind of steals the show for me. She's his nurse, and she has a lot of great interaction with Jeffrey Wright, who plays a dying patient who wants to die, and just no one will listen to him. No one hears him except for her, and their relationship is really well. And Albert Brooks plays this really likable but also hateable doctor he's like kind of like running the whole system, and he's keeping people alive just to make the money, and he's like the worst doctor, like the worst case doctor. He's just there for the money, and he's thinking how to make a buck out of people suffering. But the way Brooks plays him, he's like this like lovable old grandpa, but then he'll just say something that's like bone chilling. So it's a really just a great cast of characters. Really well told story, and I was worried about it because it got some pretty bad reviews on Letterboxd, but I liked it.
So funny enough, well, no, I haven't seen this movie, but I saw you log it, Kirk, and that you gave it a pretty decent review, and I know you're stingy with your ratings, so I said, oh, well, who's in this thing? And I look at it, and I'm like, Albert Brooks. Boatman must have seen this movie. Let's see what he thought of it. And I saw he hadn't seen it. And I said, oh, well, this won't last very long. It's the Albert Brooks movie that Boatman hasn't seen. And then not a day later, Boatman logged this movie. And I was like, I couldn't have called it better. But no, the pitch you gave sounds good to me. Lots of good actors and actresses in this thing. I like medical drama movies, so sounds interesting to me. Matt, have you seen this?
I haven't seen that. I've heard of it, and I can picture the VHS box at the video store. But yeah, it definitely sounds interesting. I'll check it out.
Awesome. And then Boatman, you did watch it. So what did you think?
I really like this movie. I don't think I had ever seen Sidney Lumet do like a farcical comedy. Like, this film has some good dramatic moments, but for the most part, like, it's very comedic. And that was very fun to see Sidney Lumet do, because he does it like a very artistic style, for lack of a better word. And I think that really works. It makes a lot of the jokes pop, and it also makes the dramatic moments pop. Obviously, I'm always going to love Albert Brooks in anything he does. And this one, not to spoil too much, but he plays a guy with memory loss. So it's very funny to see Albert Brooks play Dory instead of Marlin.
That's
I kind of describe it as like Scrubs meets Brazil, like the Terry Gilliam movie, because it very much has like the the kind of red tape bureaucracy commentary that Brazil has. Obviously not to the extreme of Brazil, but it has that same sort of tone for me. And I really enjoyed the film.
Ethan, what about you? You seen this?
No, I actually had never heard of it, but and Kirk like had kind of sold me on it, but then when Boatman just said Scrubs meets Brazil, that was I'm in. I'm watching that. That sounds great. That's like right up my alley.
All right, Ethan. Well, let's go to you next. What was your favorite movie you logged this week?
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch too much this week, but I did rewatch Clive Barker's Nightbreed, which I just spoke about on another show. I'll give a little plug for Why We Love Horror. Yeah, Nightbreed is one of my favorite horror movies. This is the director's cut we're talking about, because there was a theatrical cut that didn't do very well, and then 25 years later, Clive Barker got to come back and finish his director's cut. And it's a movie about this underground city of monsters, and they're all different looking monsters, and made in 1990. And Clive Barker, if you guys know him, he loves practical effects and creature makeup and all that. So there's just this like smorgasbord of like, lovingly crafted creatures running around with all these like masks and prosthetics and practical effects. It's super fun. And David Cronenberg, the director, plays a villainous like serial killer in it, and it's really fun to watch him. He's not a great actor, but it works for the role because he's playing like this like psycho. And it's just a great monster movie if you like that kind of stuff. And the monsters are not the bad guys in this, so it's just I love it. It's a blast. The last half hour is fucking insane. It's just like absolute crazy big pyrotechnics nuts. It's a movie not a lot of people have seen, but in my opinion, if you like horror, it deserves to be seen by more people. And I recommend you watch it.
Yeah, I have, looking at the Multiplex logged at Letterboxd, there are 6 people that have logged this movie that we follow. We've got Ethan Beller, of course. Mike Hanley gave it a 5-star. Adam Collins gave it a 4. Thomas Eanes gave it a 4. Kirk Kolkowski, you gave this movie a 1.5 star. So let's hear your thoughts on Nightbreed.
I played the 5th based on the fact that I may or may not have to be talking about this movie elsewhere on Multiplex coming up here in the near future.
Oh, do we get to talk about this again, Kirk? That'd be great. I can't wait.
That'd be weird, wouldn't it?
All right. Matt Queller, have you seen this movie?
I'm guessing Cody has it on his list. Let me see. I have not seen this one. I've missed at least one trivia question on it, so that kind of pushed it down the watch list a little bit out of spite. But it sounds interesting, so I'm gonna get around to it.
All right, Boatman, this sounds right up your alley.
Here's the thing. It doesn't sound like it is, but so the first time I heard about this movie, Bibiani talked about it on the Critically Acclaimed podcast, and he made it sound kind of awesome, so I kind of want to see it.
It's pretty awesome.
Also from the community, Brian Michaels, lower than Kirk, a 1 star. A 1 star from Mr. Brian. So
we all know how much that means, though.
That's fair enough. Okay, so then let's move up. Boatman, your favorite movie you logged this week. You were on vacation. Did you?
I was on vacation.
Other than this other movie that we already talked about.
Yeah. So it's not. So this is not that. Critical Care was great. That would not be my favorite. So this week was weird movie watching wise for me because for the most part I mainly had to watch movies my family also wanted to watch, and my family not having the greatest taste in movies. I had to watch some bad ones, so we'll have some stuff to talk about for least favorite. But in terms of favorite, on last Tuesday night, I on my phone, which is probably the worst way to experience this movie, but it was great, watched Rosemary's Baby for the first time.
All right.
Rosemary's Baby is fantastic. This is absolutely like how I wish more horror movies were like this, because it plays out very much like a drama for a lot of it, or more like a thriller. It doesn't feel like a horror movie. Like, it's not shot like a horror movie. It's not really scored or played out like a horror movie. But the things that are happening are just naturally horrifying. The cast is fantastic. Ruth Gordon is amazing in this movie. You might know her as Maude in Harold and Maude, and that's the only thing I'd really seen her in besides this. And he's great. And Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes, Mia Farrow in particular, is fantastic. And the fact she wasn't nominated for this is crazy. But I think Rosemary's Baby, it's like the perfect amount of like creepy while also being like just super interesting, like dialogue wise and story wise. I'm mad at myself for not watching it before, because I didn't know what to expect from this movie. I didn't really expect that, but it was great.
This is one that I bought on Criterion, I think, like forever ago, and still haven't watched. So it's on my to-do list. I've heard great things about it. So I'm looking forward to watching it. I've only heard fantastic things. So why did Bowen just sound like little Nicky?
Popeye's chicken.
Oh, that made me laugh. I'm sure everyone else here on the horror episode has seen this movie. So Queller, what'd you think of Rosemary's Baby?
This is one that I watched probably years ago when I first started going through and absorbing all the classic horror movies. So I probably really need to revisit. I remember liking it back then, but yeah, I need to give it a rewatch.
Kirk, what about you?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Boatman. I only watched it for the first time a couple years ago, and it kind of blew me away. The only thing I hate about this movie, it's not the movie, obviously, but just the fact that, Rosemary's Baby, it's one of those movies everybody knows what's about because it's just been talked about so much. And what you don't realize is it's really not, you don't know it's about that until like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yep.
And the whole
I don't
way
know what you're talking about. So
yeah. Oh, okay. Well, good. If you've been able to avoid spoilers, that's awesome. I wish I could have, because up to something weird's going on, but you don't know exactly what it is until there's a huge reveal at the end. And I wish I could go in not knowing what that was, because I think that would just be a completely different movie, not knowing the buildup. But yeah, I think it's the performance. I love Cassavetes in this, just as his just that real swarmy, like spineless husband, and just watching her performance as she goes through like just the torture that she's put through. This is a great pick.
Ethan, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Boatman and Kirk just said. Except I do feel like crying just a little bit that Boatman's first time watching this was on a phone. But
I'm sorry.
I get
the
it.
only way I had to watch it.
Listen, you watched it. That's the important thing. This movie's incredible. I love it. I agree with Kirk because I knew what was going on when I saw it. Unfortunately, the first time, still an incredible movie. Still great to see how it plays out. And even the ending, knowing what it's about. I still think the ending and what they do with that and how they play that out is fantastic. Sure. It's so smart. This movie is so good. Everyone's incredible. This is my favorite Mia Farrow performance. She's so good. It's like the most gaslighty movie that's ever existed, I guess, since Gaslight. And it's also upsetting the fact that Roman Polanski made this in a way ultra feminist like gaslighting movie, because that man is not a feminist. But we don't have to talk about him. The movie's incredible. I love it. One of the best horror movies I think ever made.
Cody wants to know if non-horror fans would like. He's asking for something really unrelated.
Cody,
it's
I
not
think
really
you would
scary.
enjoy this.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Atmospheric more than anything.
That's the type of horror I like. So, okay. So, favorite movie we logged this week. We did it. Great job, guys. Bowman didn't get to talk about one of them, but you know what? That's what he gets. Okay. So, we're going to move on to the next topic. Our least favorite movie we logged this week. As I said before, I've been studying for Fandom. Specifically, I've been watching DC movies. So there's been lots to choose from. And I'm going back and forth in my brain about which one to pick between Catwoman and Batman and Robin. And I think at the end of the day, Batman and Robin just makes me so much more angry. This movie's terrible. Spoiler alert for an upcoming episode of FANZONE. Kirk just got to talk about this movie a little bit. And I watched it like 2 days after we shot that match. So it was just so I was like, already had it in my brain. This movie's terrible. There's nothing new I can say about how bad it is, but it's just like one of the things that I was watching a 45-minute like breakdown of like how terrible the movie is, and somebody pointed it out to me that every Batman has had a really cool way of saying I'm Batman. You have Michael Keaton doing the I'm Batman. Christian Bale does this gruffled thing. Even Val Kilmer had a cool like I'm Bruce Wayne and I'm Batman. Like he had this like cool speech, even though the movie kind of sucks. And George Clooney comes in and is like, "Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman." And you're just like, "Yeah, okay, I guess you are. I don't know." And then he slides down a dinosaur like it's the fucking Flintstones, and it's just, oh, it's terrible. All the ice puns, they ruin Bane. Uma Thurman's the only one who knows what movie she's in. It's just like the whole movie is just rough. The Freeze has them singing the Christmas song and the choir. It's just terrible. It's awful from beginning to end. I do not like it. Not a fan. But I own it on 4K, so you know. We all have our problems. Matt, Batman and Robin.
I think I was 11 when this came out, so this is probably like the first time that I realized movies could be bad. And it was a sad, sad day.
Especially with Batman in them. It's terrible. Kirk, what about you?
Yeah, I can't think of too many movies that get this much wrong. I mean, as far as just taking the source material, completely misunderstanding the tone, misunderstanding the characters. The one thing I remember about seeing this movie in the theater is there's a scene at the end where it's been so long since I've seen it, but there's some kind of computer that they got to hack into or something, and Batman's like, "It would take a computer genius to do this," and I literally screamed at the screen, "You invented the Bat computer! You are a computer genius!" And then Batgirl, who's taken like 2 college courses of computer, she comes in and like solves the whole thing. It was just the thing is just like I said, they couldn't have done more wrong.
Bruce Wayne doesn't know how to use JavaScript.
everything you could think about, like everything good about Batman, this movie just and the side characters and villains just completely ruins.
Yeah, I do also love that scene that Kirk was referring to, where someone's. I don't know if you guys know this, but like when you look at your computer and the image like reflects onto your face, that's literally what happens. It's like the bat symbol like appears on her face, reflecting off of the computer. That's not how computers work, but okay. And then Albert like injects his consciousness into the computer so it can talk to her, and it's just
totally forgot about that.
And the funniest thing too is that they changed costumes so many times, and I never knew this, but in this like documentary thing I was watching, they literally said that it was 100% just to sell toys, that the studio told them, "Oh, well, you have your final battle here, you need to change costumes again for the final battle," and they all ride to the final battle in a new, different like bat vehicle of some sort so that they can sell the fucking toys. It's ridiculous. Boatman, I know you just watched this for the first time recently. What's your take?
I had been avoiding watching this movie for as long as I could, but I really like Albert Roadharma. So I finally did something I had never done, which was watch Batman and Robin. That was one of the ones I had avoided. I don't know if I like Albert Roadharma as much anymore. But no, this movie is awful. It's bad. And there are some people who will defend this movie. They'll say, well, it's a throwback to the Adam West Batman. Watch Batman 66, the movie. That movie is funny. Like, I get people don't like that movie, but that movie has legitimately funny moments. There's not anything actually funny about Batman and Robin. There is nothing that I find at all humorous. It is a bad comedy, is what Batman and Robin is. And bad comedies are so much harder to watch. Yeah, this movie's bad. Don't watch it.
in that documentary thing, they also had a clip of Joel Schumacher where he literally said, "If I offended anybody or hurt anybody's feelings, that was not my intention. I was just trying to make a movie, and shit happens," is basically what he said. And he was like, "Oh, so he knows how bad it is." Ethan, what about you?
All these guys here forgot their Bat credit card in the Bat Cave, because this movie is fucking great. I love it. I cannot believe that in terms of this or Catwoman, you chose this as being worse. Because is this movie good? No. I mean, it's terrible. It's a horrible movie. It's the worst Batman movie ever made. But it is such a blast to watch. I don't have this reverence for Batman that I think a lot of people do. So, like, when I watch it, I'm just like, this is fucking hysterical. It's so bad. I love it. I do laugh at so much of this movie. Not intentionally, obviously. Like, they're not trying to be funny a lot. But sometimes they are, but sometimes they're not. And it's glorious. The fact that, I'm with Andrew. The fact that this movie exists is fantastic for me. It's probably on my Mount Rushmore of bad movies that are like so good, so bad they're good. And I've seen it many, many times.
You know why I take Catwoman over this? Catwoman is 20 minutes shorter.
Fair enough.
Movie is over 2 hours long.
Give me the director's. Give me the 3-hour cut.
Oh my God, I would. Wow. I bet there's deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, but I no thanks. Okay, Matt, your least favorite movie you logged this week?
I actually mostly watched good movies this week, so I kind of cheated and went back. I think like 8 or 9 days ago, I watched Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead, and it was pretty horrible. I mean, it's just horrible characters making nonstop horrible decisions. It pretty much hits all the zombie cliches. It's pretty much an extra 30 minutes, 40 minutes maybe of slow motion scenes, and it's all out of focus. I mean, it's just horrible. One of my friends who I sometimes thinks has good taste told me I needed to watch it because I was just going to skip it entirely. But no, it was a mistake. I should have known. It's like about 2.5 hours long, and it's just, I think Zack Snyder, it's just, he wants whatever to be cool, whether it's that's a story beat or just a shot on the film. He just tries to make it cool, and most times he fails. It's just, it was bad.
I haven't seen it yet. I want to see it. I've heard mixed things. There are people I've talked to that loved it. There are people I've talked to that have hated it. Not really a lot of in between. But I'm a weirdo. I like Watchmen. I liked 300. I liked Dawn of the Dead. I'm not a big fan of Man of Steel and BVS and Justice League and that stuff. But the only Zack Snyder movie I've honestly hated was Sucker Punch. So I'll probably find some enjoyment out of it. I know Cody will hate that. But yes, there it is. There it is. Kirk, I know you saw this because you saw it in the movie house.
Yeah.
Saw on Facebook. You checked in. When
I said earlier about maybe giving some movies a free pass because I'm seeing them at the theater, I'll preface everything I say about this. I didn't watch it on Netflix. If I watch it on Netflix, I may have different feelings about it. But I thought it was pretty good. I had fun with it. Everybody knows I'm a big zombie guy. And usually like this kind of zombie isn't I'm kind of a purist. And what they do in this, I usually wouldn't like, but I kind of like the take on it. I like kind of like that, like zombie society they set up. It's a little long. Some of the shots are really weird looking. I thought Batista was good in it. He plays, I mean, I think he's come along as an actor and he actually has, some heart. And so, he feels like a real person. Tig Notaro was fun. Everybody's saying this. If you watch it, it's basically an Aliens remake. If you watch the Red Letter Media review, they kind of go through beat for beat and show you how it's just Aliens, and I like it better than Aliens. I think it's more fun than Aliens.
Hope no
Yeah.
one's bringing up aliens in it.
Yeah, again, like I said, if I was sitting on my couch watching this, and I could pause it and walk away, and wasn't completely engulfed by the screen and the whole deal, I may have ranked it a little lower. But I said in my review, I think Zack Snyder's best 2 movies now are zombie movies. So it's compared to the rest of his stuff, I think it's pretty good.
Boatman, did you watch this?
No, and I still stand by Zack Snyder's best movie is Legend of the Guardians: The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
That movie's not great. I forgot he directed that, but yeah, you're right.
I don't care. His best movie is Legend of the Guardians: The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
You just like saying Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
What are you talking about? I just really enjoy the film Legend of the Guardians: The Owls of Ga'Hoole.
Fair enough.
I do think it is his best movie. It's not great, but it's his best movie.
Ethan, did you see Army of the Dead?
Yeah, this is actually my least favorite movie that I logged this week as well.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So we'll get through mine and we'll be done with me. But I did not like this movie at all. I like a couple of Zack Snyder's movies. I really like Dawn of the Dead. I actually do like Watchmen. I don't like some of the other stuff. But I saw this trailer and I heard the premise and I was like, you know what? This looks like a blast. I'm in. This looks good. It's Zack Snyder. It's like a good project for him. I'm excited. And I watched it, and it is what Matt says is true. It's about 45 minutes too long. B, it is so devoid of fun for a movie about a zombie apocalypse in Las Vegas. The movie literally could have taken place anywhere else. It would have made almost no difference. You could just put a vault anywhere else, and it's like they barely use Vegas at all. The script is like atrocious. I like Dave Bautista as an actor. I did not like him. I didn't like Tig Notaro, who it is painfully obvious that she was just pasted over Crystalia for the entirety of this movie. It is really obvious. It like blew my mind the things that they chose to do and the things they chose not to do when you're doing a zombie apocalypse in Vegas. It's just such an upsetting waste of a premise to me. I really did not enjoy this experience watching this movie.
All right, Kirk, let's move on to you. Your least favorite movie you logged this week?
Like I said, most of the movies I logged were the movies we talked about last week on Your List Sucks. So, I mean, we could talk about Point Break. We could talk about Say Anything. We could talk about The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. But you already heard talk about all that. So I won't. The one movie that I did watch, I won't say this was bad. It was my least favorite, and then I think it was the most disappointing movie I waited forever to see. Finally got around to it this weekend. Was The Witches of Eastwick. And again, I love Jack Nicholson. This is just one that I always skipped, not skipped, but just kind of missed. And I heard so much about this when I was a kid. This is my older sister's favorite movie. She loves Jack Nicholson. She has a huge crush on him. And her and her friends always talk about this movie. Finally got to see it. I was underwhelmed by Nicholson in this. Is under the top a way to describe it, a performance. Because this has been sold to me on Nicholson being like full on Nicholson. And he just kind of was a little low key, a little too low key for me. I think Cher and Susan Sarandon and Michelle Pfeiffer are really good in it. But I came for Nicholson and I came hungry for Nicholson and it didn't fill me up.
All right. I've never seen it. I've heard of it, but not one that I've checked out yet. I love Nicholson, so I'm always gonna watch something if it's like available and I have the time. I'll check it out because I like him. But it sounds like it's not like the worst movie ever made, just underwhelming. Matt, what about you?
Actually, I'm getting around to this one yet. I just added it to my HBO Max list a couple of weeks ago, and it's just sitting there, and I find something else to watch each time. So we'll see.
All right, Boatman, what about you?
I also haven't seen this, and I kind of wanted to, and now I kind of don't.
That's fair. And Beller, what about you?
I had almost an identical experience to Kirk, where I had heard about this movie for years, and I was really excited to watch it. And I checked it out finally a couple years ago, and I didn't hate it. I just very, very much so felt meh to less than meh on it, and I was disappointed. I thought it'd be really fun. My girlfriend, who loves Cher, big Cher fan, watched this with me. She fell asleep after 15 minutes. This movie is just I don't know. It's just like not as fun as it should be, and I agree. Nicholson doesn't go for it, and yeah, it was disappointing.
All right. So we already hit Ethan's. Boatman, your least favorite movie you logged this week?
I spent this week with my family.
Yeah.
Which included my sister and her husband and her 3 kids. And a lot of the time, her 3 kids got to the movie. So one day we watched Paul Blart Mall Cop, which is a movie that, while being bad, I kind of like. And afterwards, they said, hey, what about the sequel?
Oh, boy.
I watched Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 this. I don't know what the point is anymore. Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 is basically Kevin James Paul Blarting around Vegas for like an hour before any plot actually happens. And then the actual like villain plot line happens for about half an hour and then the movie is over. Which sounds like a short breeze. It isn't. It's torture. It should be illegal under maritime law and technically constituted as a war crime. And I know I'm a war criminal. Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 is an insane experience. Legitimately, that movie makes so many odd choices, but it's still boring. It's a contradiction of a movie. Look, I think the first one is not good, but it's Die Hard in a mall. And that's kind of fun. It's stupid. It's bad. But it's Die Hard in a mall, and I was 9 when I was first saw it, okay? This is not fair. That's not comparable crimes. My family is terrible.
All right, Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. I like Boatman. I'm a younger fella. I saw the first one. I think it came out like either right as I was leaving middle school or starting high. It was somewhere around there, like leaving middle school, getting into high school, somewhere around there. And I remember going to see it with my friends and thinking it was whatever, kind of funny. He plays Guitar Hero in the movie, or rock band. He plays Detroit Rock City. Great song, great rock band song. So fantastic. Peanut Blart and jelly, whatever. I vividly remember seeing the movie in the theater, and then I started working at the movie theater in 2014. And that first year that I worked there, me and Maggie were dating, and she went away to school for the semester. And I remember saying to her, "Oh, well, you're going to come back this weekend. We should see a movie." And the only new movie that was out that we hadn't seen yet was Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. And I said, this seems like 6 years too late.
How are you still married to this woman?
Check the math. It came out 6 years after the first one. I think we'd been dating less than a year at this point. And she said, "Oh, I saw the first one. Sure, let's go see it." And I've never been, well, that's not true. I was about to say I've never been more angry in the theater ever. I was just like, I didn't know what to think. Me and Cody talked about this the other night. I just don't like Happy Madison, like, at all. Like, any of their shit. Like, I don't think it's funny. Even some of the older stuff, I don't think it's funny. I don't think Kevin James is funny. This movie's terrible. I saw it the one time. I will never, ever, ever watch this again. Yeah, no, this was just awful. I didn't even remember that it was in Vegas. But now I'm vaguely remembering that now that you say it. Yeah, this is rough. This is an oof. Matt Queller, you seem like a guy who was at Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 opening night. Tell me about that.
I used to date a girl who had horrible taste, so I know I saw the first one in theaters. I don't know if I saw this one or not. I'm seeing Kevin James, but that might be Zookeeper I'm thinking about. So it's just all a blur of awfulness. I'm gonna just assume that I didn't see it and try to live a happy life.
This is also coming from the director of Race to Witch Mountain, Playing with Fire. The Game Plan.
That one's not bad.
This is all A+ material here. Kirk, did you take your kids to see Paul Blart opening weekend?
I have not seen Paul Blart 2. I have not seen Paul Blart 1. Tim, I owe you a debt of gratitude. You saved me from having to watch Paul Blart 1 by beating Koho for the slice. So that was the only reason I would ever saw that movie. Now I don't have to. But yeah, no, not for me.
Beller, what about you?
I also saw Paul Blart in theaters at a certain age. And I also didn't hate it at the time. You blew my mind when you just told me that Paul Blart 2 came out 6 years later. That is crazy to me. That's not one of those movies you think they're like, what are we going to bring back 6 years later to get some money? Paul Blart. I have not seen the second movie, but that is so crazy to me.
He's not even a mall cop in the second one, is he?
Well, he's a mall cop. He's there for a mall cop convention, Tim. There's a mall cop convention in Vegas.
Who plays the villain?
Some dude.
Some guy. Oh, is it Neil McDonough?
Oh, shit. I have seen this.
He's on the cast list.
Yeah, Neil McDonough.
Fantastic. Neil McDonough. What a guy. All right. So those are your worst movies of the week. 2 featuring Las Vegas. So maybe Vegas, not a great place to set your mall cop movies.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
If you watch closely in Army of the Dead, you actually see Paul Blart Zombie rolling on his Segway.
All right, so we're going to move on to the second part of the show where we're going to talk about horror sequels. Like I said earlier, we are going to rank all these at the end of the show, or not at the end of the show, at the end of the section here. So what I'm doing is I'm going to bring up our handy-dandy list. As we have movies, I will add them to the list. We will rank them as we go. I forgot about the watch list thing. Whatever. We're gonna skip that because we're already going really, really long this week. So horror sequels. We each are gonna bring up 2, and then if somebody I say Halloween 2, and Boatman was like, that was my favorite, he can just go on to the next thing onto his list. I'm very interested to see the kind of movies that we get. This will be interesting. So I'm going to start out. I talked about it last week when Brian brought up the fact that Spiral was his least favorite movie that he logged last week. And the first one I'm going to bring up is Saw 2. I love the Saw franchise. I genuinely do. It's one of my favorites. And I think Saw 2 is just awesome. It's my favorite of the sequels. I think it's hard to top the original, but I think they do a pretty good job of expanding it, having it not be the same, having it be bigger, and then also doing cool stuff with the traps and the characters and expanding the lore. Again, this franchise is not for everybody. I understand that. I saw them at a very young age and kind of fell in love with them. So Saw 2 is my first pick. Queller, what do you think about Saw 2?
Oh, I love Saw 2. I mean, that's definitely, like you said, it's definitely one of the better sequels. It's before they start focusing on the evil cop guy, and it kind of goes downhill a little bit for me with those ones. But this one, like I said, kind of expands upon the original, just makes it bigger, adds more people, bigger traps, gets it out of just the one room. And, of course, the needle scene is just that's one of the best of the whole franchise. So,
yeah. The needle scene, and then there's also one where the girl puts her arms up into the box to grab the antidote, and then has to pull it out, and whoo, boy. Kirk, have you seen any of these movies?
I've seen. I play movie trivia, man. I think Matt is the reason I watched all these. Matt made me watch all these movies. I would say Saw 2 is the best sequel, and it's the only one I can differentiate from any of the others. I could tell you about 1, I could tell you about 2, and 3 through however many are in my head the exact same movie. Random people you don't care about getting torn apart by machines. But this one, I kind of like that Saw spin on the haunted house idea. It's again. I mean, it gets this idea gets played out like ad nauseum through the rest of the series. But here it's still fresh and fun. So yeah, definitely, definitely the best Saw sequel.
Yeah, they also do a lot of cool stuff with like the twists at the end of the movie. That like the first one has a huge twist that I think is awesome and probably the best one in the series. But the way that they connect the movies and have them kind of all come together is really awesome. Ethan, I saw you perk up when I said Saw. So are you a fan of these?
Honestly, man, I think that the first 3 Saw movies, I disagree with Kirk. I think the first 3 are like a solid horror trilogy, honestly. And they have like a bookended story. And I think if they had just stopped there, it would have been pretty great. I love Saw 2. I think it is a very good horror sequel. It just completely, it takes the idea of the first one, just totally runs with it in like the best way. Yeah, like that haunted house of Saw traps, like you said, is great. The second you said Saw 2, my mind just went to the woman with her hands and the thing, which is basically, if anyone hasn't seen this movie, it's like when you stick your finger in a straw hole in a cup, and then you try to pull it out, but it's that with hands and like blades, and it's really fun. I like the twist at the end, and yeah, I am a fan of the first 3 Saw movies, and this is probably my favorite one.
Yeah, it's really close for me between this one and the third one, but I think the third one gets a little like. I love the story angles of the third one, but the traps get a little more gross. Like the pig is a little out there. I think it's called the rack, the one where it's like twisting all the limbs. Like that's a little rough. I think this one just like it still feels like something that a old man with cancer who's dying could set up hypothetically. And then by the third one, you're like, well, that must have been real tough for him. So, Boatman, you haven't seen this.
No.
Okay. But I like Michael's pitch. I think later this summer we'll do a live stream series of you watching all the movies.
Cody, if you really want me to, I will. I'll do it because I feel like, honestly, in a group of people, that is probably the best environment for me to watch those movies. So I do it. I'd probably rather do that than watch it alone and throw up.
Have you seen the first one?
Sort of.
I think if we watched all the first 3, that would be a baller. That would
do it.
Be a lot of fun. Okay,
I've seen Gladiator, Scully. It's just not that great. Relax.
All right, Matt, you get to go next. What's your first pick?
Well, let's see. I know that Tim and I were both on the year's horror sequel, so I kind of want to do a couple maybe that we didn't talk about then. So I'm going to start with Dr. Sleep.
Oh.
And that was kind of Mike Flanagan had the hard task of trying to kind of merge the worlds of Stephen King and Stanley Kubrick and kind of follow up on it. And I think he did a great job with this. I mean, there's some amazing visuals in it. It just really sets the atmosphere. And it's kind of like an epic horror film because it goes like over years and follows different characters and kind of off of different settings. And Rebecca Ferguson is pretty terrifying as Rose the Hat. I know the one scene where they get the baseball kid is just pretty traumatic. But yeah, I really love this. I thought Ewan McGregor was great. And of course, then when the final act, once they get to the Overlook Hotel, it's just really, really enjoyable. So yeah, I really love this one.
Yeah, I got to see this in the theater a couple weeks early. I think Fandango was doing like early showings of it at some select locations, and we went and saw it. And I like The Shining a lot. I would even say I love it. I don't think it's like in my top 100 or anything. It's not my favorite Kubrick movie, but I really, really enjoy that movie. But I was totally surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. I wouldn't say I like it more. I think I like them about the same because I've only seen each of them like 2-3 times. But I really enjoyed it. I thought, like you said, Rose the Hat was a great villain. It's a really long movie, but it didn't feel like it. And then I have it on Blu-ray. It comes with the director's cut. I want to watch that. I think Flanagan, between this and Haunting of Hill House, I'm really liking what he's doing. So I'm kind of game for whatever he decides to do next. But yeah, like you, this really surprised me, and I thought this was absolutely great. Kirk, what do you think about Dr. Sleep?
I love it. This would have been my first pick. I've talked ad nauseum about my relationship with The Shining and just my family history with it, so I won't get into all that. But the fact that I was able to go see this in the theaters with my older sisters who introduced this to me when I was a kid was, just personally for me, just a really great moment. And like Mike said, I think they do, or Matt said they do a great job of, it's, famously Stephen King hated the Stanley Kubrick movie. And, he gave Stephen King gave this movie, he praised this movie, left and right. He loved this movie. And I think they do a great job. This movie is a sequel to the characters the story of the first movie, but it's a sequel to the characters and the themes of the novel. Mm-hmm. And just the fact that they were able to pull that off and just completely merge those two things pretty seamlessly is a pretty daunting task. And, this movie should have fell on its fate. It should have been a complete bomb, waiting 40 years for a sequel and just everything had going against it. But it's fantastic. I love how they the one thing that they did take out of the movie that I think is better than the book is Jack's alcoholism and how they address that in this movie. I mean, the scene in where Danny gets his chip is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's so emotional, so powerful. They kind of redeem that character, the character Jack Torrance, a little bit through that. I really enjoy that. And yeah, the baseball kid scene is horrifying. I mean, that's classic Stephen King. That's what Stephen King does. He does horrible things to children, and he doesn't let you look away. And it's just very it's scary, but there's just so much heart and emotion to it. It's just such a well-told story. This is a fantastic sequel.
Ethan has taken some time away because he has not seen this, wants to see it, and has told us to wave our arms when we're done talking about it. We're gonna wait for Ethan, but Boatman, have you seen it? I feel like you have seen this one, or am I wrong?
I have seen it, and I really liked it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to, actually. I think that this is I think one of the best things about this movie is the production design. This movie, for most of it, does not look like The Shining. It's its own thing visually. And then you get to the Overlook. And the way it's shot changes, everything feels like The Shining. And it's kind of this great, I think that was a brilliant idea to basically have it stand on its own as a movie for the first hour and a half. And then you get all the callbacks in the last half hour. I think that's great. I think Ewan McGregor is fantastic as Danny. And I think the villains are really cool and creepy. And I just want to point out, and this is Kaleb Koho's fault, that the baseball kid is from Iowa. And he's played by Jacob Tremblay, who I was also a big fan of another film he was in 2019, Good Boys. And people have compared his character in Good Boys as just the younger Boatman. So Koho has said that is the depiction of my murder as a child.
Creepy. Thanks, Boatman. Okay, now we all need to wave our arms for Ethan.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, he's back. All right, Kirk. Why don't you go ahead and give us your first pick?
My first pick would be, since Dr. Sleep is taken, we talked about zombie movies, so maybe not so great zombie movies. I'm going with a zombie sequel, Dawn of the Dead. Everybody knows that I love Romero. Again, this other movie I have a connection to, where this was filmed in Roseville Mall, was my high school hangout. They still do the zombie walk every year, so that's a big deal for us. But it's just I still prefer Night of the Living Dead. That's still my favorite Dead movie. But I love the world building in this because at the end of Night of the Living Dead, it seems like it's kind of under control. It's over, and then from the first shot of this, you see that it's just getting started. And the first 15-20 minutes of this movie, where they're establishing in a really cool way under this little microcosm, this TV station and this apartment complex. Just how things are completely falling apart all over the world, and the way they introduce those characters, and then they get to the mall, and it's just about them the whole idea of it is about trying to control your fate, control death, control your destiny, and you really can't. And it makes for some great moments. It's a slow burn. There's so many fun scenes in them all, of them just shopping and fooling around. And but then you get to that end, which is it just gets like ludicrous and absurd. And it makes sense for that world though, because it just really shows you like how absurd it is to try to control this stuff and how you wouldn't be able to. So I think the cast is really great. Just those main four and the story they tell, and just the opening scene and that whole third act when the motorcycle gang invades the mall, and just a lot of great action, a lot of great body horror there, a lot of great effects, and this is, I think, like I said, this is the movie that really sets up the whole Dead mythos. Without this movie, you don't have the rest of the series and everything else that happens in that world.
I actually haven't seen this. I've only seen the Zack Snyder movie. I want to see this, but I kind of want to do it right and watch all of them. And this is one, unlike Rosemary's Baby earlier, where I kind of know everything about at least the first two movies pretty much, because they are so revered and I've heard so much about them. But I still plan on watching them. I want to watch them. I don't know if I'll get as far as like the Diary of the DVD straight to stuff, if that's not that great. But as far as like the original theatrical released ones, I'll definitely be checking them out because I've heard so many good things. Matt, what about you?
Oh yeah, I love this one. This is just the Kirk was saying, like the zombie effects, the makeup and stuff, the horror, it's wonderful stuff. I know probably everyone's at one point thought of like, if a zombie invasion like really happened, where would be a good place to kind of like make your stand? And a mall seems like it would be a good place, but as you can see, this movie not so much. But yeah, it's a really good stuff.
Boatman?
I have watched the first half hour of this movie 3 times, and for whatever reason, once I get to like the half hour mark, something comes up, and then I forget about the movie for a while, and then I have to start it over. So this Halloween, we're trying again. I tried every Halloween. And we're trying it again. Halloween 2021. Let's see how it goes.
How about like June 2nd, 2021? What about that?
Tim, I'm playing movie trivia. I have things to study for.
That's fair. Ethan, what about you?
Yeah, I love this movie. I think, Kirk, you said you like the first one better. Yeah, I agree with Kirk. I like Night of the Living Dead better, but I do love this one. Yeah, I mean, it is like Kirk said. It's you're getting these characters in this world of zombies, but you're not. It's not until like in the beginning and the end. It's like a lot of zombie stuff. The middle is a lot of just like people living in the apocalypse in a mall, and it's like really interesting to just watch them do that. Yeah, the gore stuff is great. Tom Savini, I think, is one of the zombies, and or one of the bikers, and he worked on the gore, and he's like a master. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Awesome. All right, Boatman, why don't you go ahead and give us your first pick?
My first pick is from maybe my favorite horror franchise, period. These movies are my type of horror movies, and I think this is the best in the second best in the franchise, the best sequel in the franchise, going with Scream 4. I think Scream 4 is fantastic. I really love the new characters they introduced. Hayden Panettiere specifically is fantastic in this movie. I think she's a lot of fun. I love how like she's kind of like the Randy of this movie, but she's not really like, she's a horror nerd, but she's not like just a horror nerd. She's just kind of a movie nerd who knows about horror movies. And I think that's kind of a fun angle to take with it. I think Rory Culkin is great. I love the turns this movie takes. I love the kind of new version of the rules. I think that's a lot of fun about how basically the rules don't really exist anymore, because every rule, the cliches are the new, like the pointing out of the cliches are the new cliche. And I think that it's a really fun commentary on where horror was in 2011. And it's really cool that in 2011, Wes Craven still kind of had his pulse on everything. I really like that. So yeah, Scream 4 is great. I really like this one a lot. It's my favorite of the sequels. I like Scream 2. Don't love Scream 3, but Scream 4 is awesome.
So I love the first Scream. Love it. One of my favorite horror movies. I've seen the second, the third, and the fourth one all one time. I've seen the first one so many, but yeah, the second and the third one didn't really like. I saw this in the theater, and I remember thinking it was fine, and then I never watched it again. So I honestly don't remember much about it. I remember Neve Campbell coming back, and I remember Emma Roberts was in this, and I think they were like related somehow. But I don't know. I've never had a desire to go back to it. The Scream sequels never really did it for me. They're rebooting it now, and I don't know how I feel about that. They did the TV show, and now they're doing another movie, and I don't know. I love the first one so much. It's one of those where I love the original so much, and I just kind of really don't like all the sequels. There's usually one that I can point out as being like, oh yeah, I really like that one, but not really with this franchise. But this is definitely a Boatman horror franchise. Absolutely. I can 100% see that. Matt, what about you?
Oh, yeah, I agree with Boatman. I mean, this one was kind of the redemption that the franchise needed after the third film. And I agree. I like the new characters. I like some of the new characters even better than some of the old characters that they brought back for it. And the new rules. And I really like the concept of the camera filming everything throughout the film. It's really, really interesting concept. So, yeah. Good for you, Wes.
Kirk, what about you? You are muted. Taken after Cody.
This is honestly my least favorite of the sequels. I just watched this for the first time, I think last year for trivia. I just feel like it's like, okay, it's meta on top of meta on top of meta. It's like, okay, we get it. It's meta. It's calm down. And I just feel like by this point, like, I think Scream was great for its time, but I think like time has kind of passed it by a little bit. I think like you had the Scary Movie franchise, it's the parody, and then you had Cabin in the Woods, I think does horror parody and commentary better than Scream ever did. So yeah, this one just didn't do it for me at all.
Beller, what about you?
Yeah, Scream is one of my favorite movies of all time. I saw the second one a long time ago. Don't remember anything about it. I've actually never seen the third or fourth. I have the box set. I'm probably going to watch them soon because I keep getting reminded that I haven't seen all of them, and I want to. So I'll watch it soon.
All right. Then we move on to Ethan. You again. What is your number one or your first pick to throw in?
Yeah, my first pick for tonight is Gremlins 2, the new batch. It's back, baby. Yeah, I love Gremlins. Gremlins is a lot of fun. It's a horror comedy. It's great. It's a great movie. Gremlins 2, I like way better. It is horror comedy with the comedy turned up to 11 and the horror turned down a little bit, but it's still horror comedy. It counts. And this movie is just insane. It is. They take the first movie, which is already a little silly, but then they just make this one Looney Tunes Gremlins, and they're in this big tower in New York City, which is meant to be Trump Tower. It's called Clamp Tower, or Clamp Tower, I guess, or Clamp Industries. I don't remember exactly, but it is so funny. And this movie is also very meta, talking about meta horror movies. And it's basically just like, all right, we did the first Gremlins. What do we do now? Okay, well, what if there were Gremlins, but they were just a bunch of different types of Gremlins? We got a smart Gremlin who can talk, and he's like a professor. We have a sexy Gremlin who's like this woman Gremlin in a red dress who sings songs. We got a spider Gremlin. We got a bat Gremlin. We got an electricity Gremlin. It's awesome. Christopher Lee is in this movie. Dick Miller comes back, and he's not messing around with these Gremlins. Listen, this movie's great. There are two meta scenes in this movie that I think are among my favorite of all time. The first is Phoebe Cates telling a story that tops the ridiculousness of the first movie story because they recognized how stupid it was. The second is a scene in which the film you're watching burns away, and then you're in a movie theater, and Hulk Hogan is watching Gremlins 2, and the film is burned, and he stands up and turns around, and there are gremlins in the projection booth, where the guy gets him. He's like, "Sir, there are gremlins in the booth." He's like, "Gremlins?" And then Hulk Hogan turns around and he like rips his shirt off and he yells at the gremlins, and then they put the movie back on. It's incredible. It's so fun. This movie's awesome. Better than the first one.
I've not seen either of these. I want to. It's not something I've gotten to yet. I've heard mixed things about Gremlins too. I've been told that you either love it or you hate it. And yeah, no, it's definitely something I want to watch. That pitch of the Hulk Hogan scene, that sounds amazing. It sounds something right up my alley. So I'll probably check these out. I know the first one was just re-released on 4K, so might be time to add it to the shelf. So might check it out. Queller, what about you?
Oh, I agree with everything that Ethan just said. The first one's okay, but this one is just phenomenal. I mean, I used to love the Gizmo when he does his whole Rambo thing. Was amazing. And if you haven't seen it, check out the Key and Peele sketch. It will just make you appreciate the film so much more.
Yep.
Kirk, what about you?
We talked about this a little bit on Your List Sucks. I've gone had ups and downs with this movie. When I was a kid, I was like the perfect age when the first Gremlins come out. I still love the first Gremlins. I still think it's a great movie. I like it better than Gremlins 2. But I was like that perfect age where I was young enough where it was really scary to me, but I still connected with the cute characters and everything. And then, as a little bit older, when Gremlins 2 come out, I'm at that age, I'm yes, more Gremlins. Give me more Gremlins. Give me all the different weird Gremlins. I loved it. Got a little bit older, and I realized, or started to think that, oh, that's really dumb what they did. That was stupid. They just made a bunch of stupid Gremlins. And then as I really started to, look into the movie and learn about it and what Joe Dante was doing and why he did it. He didn't want to do a Gremlin sequel. They kept throwing money at him to do a sequel. He didn't want to do it. And he said, I'll only do it if you let me do whatever I want. And they gave him free range to do it. And he just basically took a dump all over the first movie. And I think it's just so brilliant how he does it. So it really makes me love this movie.
All right. Boatman.
The first Gremlins is legitimately a brilliant movie because it's what if we took a Frank Capra movie and turned it halfway through into a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like a 50s B monster movie. The second Gremlins is what if we took a pile of cocaine, snorted it, and then made a movie. But also, I think the best stuff about the movie is the meta elements. The meta elements are super fun. Everybody talks about the Hulk Hogan scene. To me, that's not the best fourth wall break in the movie. The best fourth wall break in the movie is noted classy film critic who did not like the first Gremlins, Leonard Maltin, reviewing the first Gremlins and then getting strangled by a gremlin with a film strip.
That sounds amazing.
That is brilliant. Brilliant. That's fantastic. I also appreciate, everybody gets a gremlin. I have a gremlin that I relate to. I love Tony Randall as Brainy Gremlin. Because if I were a Smurf, I'm Brainy Smurf. And if I were a gremlin, I'm Brainy Gremlin.
The first one is not a meta movie, right? It's just no.
First one is it's not straightforward, but it's within its own universe. The second one is very fourth wall breaking.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. So I get to go next. My next pick. Oh, man. I feel like this is going to get brought up by someone, but I'm oh. Okay. I'm going to skip down because I have faith that Ethan or Queller or Kirk will say what I actually want to say. I'm going to do another weird 2010s one that I think I'm probably the only one that probably likes it. I'm going to go with Paranormal Activity 3. So the first Paranormal Activity was one that I really liked when it came out. It scared the shit out of me. I didn't know much about movies at the time. I was young enough that it got me. And then I remember seeing the second one and really liking the second one. And then the third one did the main sisters as kids, and they went back into the 80s. They do a lot of cool stuff with the found footage. This is still when I didn't hate found footage yet. They did a lot of cool stuff with that, like putting the camera on the fan and having the fan like move around to like see the entire room. I thought that was all really cool. And I thought the scares were genuinely good in this movie. I thought the jump scares and the frights were quite awesome, and I enjoyed it a lot. The rest of the franchise after the first three goes way wacko, and I'm not a big fan. But I still liked this one a lot. Matt, what about you?
Oh yeah, I love this one. The Paranormal Activity movies, those are amazing films to watch in a theater full of people. And this is probably the only one that I've actually revisited on its own, probably at home, because this is pretty much how much I enjoyed this one. Like they said, the scene with the fan, and pretty much you know something's happening, but it's just the tension of it. You're waiting for it to happen. It's just really good. It's definitely, I think, probably the best of all of them.
Yeah, my wife actually, she used to be, when we first started dating, it was very easy to scare her with movies. This is one of the first ones I made her watch. Kirk, what about you?
I have only seen the first Paranormal Activity. I liked it, but I'm nervous about seeing the sequels because I feel like they did what they could with that first one, and I'm not expecting much from this. I feel like they kind of they ran the well dry with that first one, and I don't expect much from the follow-ups.
That's fair. Boatman, what about you?
I have never seen a Paranormal Activity movie because, like, I was ultimately like I was a little too late for the boom of those movies. Like, I wasn't like allowed to watch R-rated movies like, for most growing up, and like by the time I was by that point. The reputation of those movies had been tainted by the sequels, and everyone's like, Paranormal Activity sucks. I haven't seen any of them.
Beller, what about you?
Yeah, I've seen the first three, I think. I remember liking this movie when I saw it, but I haven't seen it in so long. I remember very little about it except for that it's like in the 80s, and I remember the ending, I think, and I liked the ending. I liked what they did with it, if I'm remembering correctly. And I don't know if I would still enjoy as much if I rewatched it now, but I did like it at the time.
Awesome. All right. Matt, what's your next pick?
I think someone could do this one, but if they didn't, I couldn't be able to live with myself if this wasn't on the list. So I got to go Evil Dead 2.
Yes, that's what I was hoping for. Thank you. Okay.
This is by far the best Sam Raimi sequel. And it's definitely the best of the Evil Dead trilogy. I mean, it's just Bruce Campbell. Pretty much, there's a good chunk of this movie is just him fighting his possessed hand, and it's probably one of the greatest cinematic sequences of all time. But yeah, I mean, really, it's just there's just so much. It's the gore and the humor. It doesn't go too far either way, so it's just the perfect blend. And it's just Bruce Campbell, and this is probably my favorite Bruce Campbell film. So I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love this movie. I was going between a couple, and I hoped someone else would bring this up so I could bring up something else that I knew nobody would. So, yeah, no, I love this movie to death. This is my favorite of the Evil Dead movies. I think this is the perfect blend of the comedy and the horror. I actually really like the 2013 remake. I think that is probably my second favorite Evil Dead movie, even more than the original. But yeah, this takes everything. And if you know the story behind the making of the movie, they wouldn't give him the rights to the original. So he basically remade the first movie in like 25 minutes of this. And if you look at that opening 25 minutes to where the movie ends, it's so fucking wacko and amazing, and I love it. Don't know if I would say it's the best Sam Raimi sequel, but it's close. It's very close. And I love Army of the Dead too, but for totally other reasons. This movie,
you mean Army of Darkness?
Yeah. Army on the brain. Thank you.
I wanted to save you.
Thank you. Army of Darkness, but again, for totally different reasons. That movie is just like wacko. We're really on cocaine now. And this still has a lot of the what I loved about the original. but also having just like so much fun. And fun fact, just want to give it a shout out. If you've never watched Evil Dead the musical, it's a good time. If you like musicals and you like Evil Dead and gore, it's a fun time. Kirk, what about you?
I have never seen an Evil Dead movie. It's one of those things where I've been, kind of planning on it, but just haven't gone around to it yet.
Interesting. I would not have expected that. Boatman.
The only Evil Dead franchise film I have seen is Army of Darkness, which I really like, but that's the only one I've seen.
I know Cody has seen Army of Darkness because I think he watched it with the video store. Beller, what about you?
Yeah, I actually I had this on my list, but I wasn't gonna say it unless someone else didn't. So I'm glad that Matt said it, because when you said that, I was like, he's talking about Evil Dead 2. If Matt doesn't say it, or Kirk doesn't say it, or Boatman doesn't say it, I'm gonna have to say it. So thank you. Yeah, this movie is incredible. This is like one of my. Growing up, I was obsessed with the first. Well, not the first two. The whole trilogy I loved. I had this like DVD that was like the Necronomicon. It was like a plushie, and if you pressed the eye, it would like scream or something. It was so fun. I love these movies to death. The second one is my favorite. This movie like uses the first few minutes of the movie to just remake the first movie so that you're like prepped for the rest of it, and it does it. It's so fun. The gore is ridiculous. That scene where Ash finally loses his mind in the cabin and he starts laughing and all the furniture starts laughing and he's like bouncing up and down with the lamp. That's like one of my favorite scenes in any horror movie ever. Last year I got to see Evil Dead 1 and 2 at a drive-in double feature. It was like one of the best experiences ever. Yeah, this movie it's a masterpiece. I love it.
All right. Kirk, your next pick.
My next pick, we're going classic. I'm going to go The Bride of Frankenstein.
All right.
I love all these movies. The first one's great. I love what Karloff does with the silent performance in the first movie. But in this one, he starts to I see the first one as like kind of like a metaphor just for like a child, like a child brought into the world and kind of just thrown out there. And okay, what's the point? Why am I here? And trying to figure that. And this is almost like him becoming like, maturing into, adolescence or adulthood and kind of losing some of that innocence he had in the first movie. And, he becomes a much more complex character in this. This is where he starts to talk and, communicate. They do a great job. It's a great continuation of the story in the fact that they make him more sympathetic, but also find a way to, at least for a little bit, make him the villain of the movie. Karloff's great in both of them. Elsa Lanchester is great in her little role as the bride. She's hardly in it, but she kills it. Dr. Pretorius is a great villain, just such like a real over-the-top campy character, and just the effects of his little, his little tiny people that he makes and everything. And I love the way these these movies are shot. I think James Wells just creates that atmosphere, that gothic horror better than anybody. I think this is one where I think I still like Frankenstein better, but Bride of Frankenstein is fantastic.
So about 4 or 5 years ago, Walmart did like a Blu-ray collection of like classic Universal like horror movies with like these like glow in the dark Blu-ray cases, and I bought all of them except this one because they were out of it. They were out of it. So I got Frankenstein and the Mummy and Dracula and the Wolfman and I think another one, Creature from the Black Lagoon was one of them. So I haven't seen this one, but I've seen the first one. I've seen Frankenstein. I really liked it. I was surprised at how much I actually liked all those movies because it takes a lot for me to get into like classic movies. I don't know what it is. It's just that's how it is. But I liked a lot of these, and Frankenstein was one I really liked. So I will watch this eventually. I think it's on HBO, so I'll probably check it out. But yeah, Queller.
This is one that I know I saw when I was a child. My mom used to show me all sort of stuff like this, and of course the Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein, this sort of stuff. But I wanted to rewatch it before the show because I knew someone was going to bring it up. I just didn't have time.
All right, Boatman.
So the way I first watched this movie was probably one of my favorite like movie watching experiences ever. One of my theaters that I go to I was doing like a thing where like in the summer they have like a showing of a bunch of like older classic movies, and this was one of the ones. And they had this guy who had like all this Frankenstein memorabilia, and like it was all over like the concession stand and the walls and everything in the lobby. So it like really like kind of got you in like the atmosphere for the movie, and that seeing that in theaters was like so much fun. I preferred this to the original Frankenstein. It might have been because of the way I experienced it, but I just think this one just has more going on, and maybe that's it. Is that I'm just so familiar with like the plot of Frankenstein because it's been like parodied to death that uh the that it's been parodied to death that like the story just feels a little basic. Bride of Frankenstein, I didn't really know as much, and it takes a lot of interesting turns and directions. So I really like that. But yeah, I think Bride of Frankenstein is probably my second favorite classic Universal monster movie. Is Invisible Man is great.
All right, Beller.
Yeah, I am ashamed to say that I have not seen a lot of the Universal monster movies. I've been meaning to. Last Halloween, I was going to watch a bunch of them. Well, last October, I only made it to like 2 of them. I think Dracula and one of the other ones. I have not seen this, but I did one time. It was playing at like it was playing somewhere on like a wall, and I saw only that scene with the guy with the tiny people, and I didn't know what movie it was, but I was like, that is incredible. That looks so fucking good. And then I like found out it was Bride of Frankenstein. I was like, wow, okay, well, I should watch that because that scene looks amazing.
All right. We are on to Boatman. What's your second pick? You are muted.
My second pick, because Kirk picked my other second pick, I'm going to go, I hate to be a broken record, but I'm going to pick a different Wes Craven meta sequel. My favorite film in this franchise, including the original, New Nightmare. Wes Craven's New Nightmare is great. This is clearly like proto Scream. It's very much like it's one of the earlier meta horror movies that I'm familiar with. And I think the way this film just tackles kind of the legacy of the Freddy Krueger character is really interesting because it does kind of address the fact that like he was made into a joke. Like if you watch especially those later sequels, it gets not really scary anymore. And this is the scariest, in my opinion, Freddy Krueger has ever been. He has never been scarier than he has been in New Nightmare. And I think that really works. I think Heather Langenkamp is great in the film. I think all the cameos and people from the franchise talking about the films while also talking about the character, I think is great. I think this one's just brilliant. Wes Craven, when he makes movies like this, I think you can tell he really puts a lot of effort into it.
If he puts a lot of effort into it, he should get a better child actor because that kid in this movie is fucking obnoxious. I love this movie, though. I really do. This is probably my third favorite Nightmare movie. I go the original, then I go Dream Warriors, then I do this. Dream Warriors would have been the one that I would pick as the sequel, but I get why, Boatman, you like this movie so much. But yeah, Heather Langenkamp is great in the movie. I love the design of Freddy in this one. He has like a weird, like long jacket on, and he just looks way more terrifying than he had in years. And like Boatman said, that's because he was a joke for so long. I love all these movies, even the horrible ones. Well, maybe not Freddy's Dead. That one's pretty awful, but I find enjoyment in most of the Nightmare movies. But yeah, this one's really, really good. I just really hate that kid. I really do. I think he's not good in the movie. But the hospital scene where the babysitter is getting killed, like in the original, like Tina does in the original movie, and Freddy is like chasing her up the wall and everything. It's next level Wes Craven awesome stuff. It's fantastic. Matt, what about you?
Yeah, this is probably my second favorite of the franchise, below Dream Warriors, which would have been my pick if I didn't think Boatman was going to do this. I love the meta nature of it. Wes Craven was ahead of his time with it for sure. When my mom used to work at the video store, I was probably about maybe 9 or 10 when this came out. So there was a Freddy Krueger standee with him in his trench coat that I used to have to walk past every day, and it used to freak me out. But yeah, good stuff.
Kirk?
I have not gotten this far in the franchise yet, but is the one I'm most looking forward to seeing.
That's fair. Beller?
Yeah, another one that I am ashamed to admit. I own the whole franchise on DVD. I have the whole set. I've seen most of them. I have not seen this one yet, but I am also very excited to watch it.
Awesome. Okay. Ethan, we are on to your final pick. You get to pick the last movie.
All right. Well, we are going with another YLS pick for me. Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Hellraiser 1 is one of my favorite horror movies, potentially my favorite, but the second one is really good. I don't like it more than the first one, but I do love it. It does what I like about a lot of horror sequels, or not a lot of horror sequels do. It's not just another group of people dealing with this issue. The story takes place right after the first one ends. So you still care about the characters. You're still getting the same, you're getting similar villains that kind of bring people back. The gore in this movie is great. There are a lot of really great practical effects and makeup and prosthetics they do for these Cenobites. And Julia, who is like the villain of the first two movies, basically, she comes back. She's even better in this one as a villain, in my opinion. They do a lot of really fun stuff. The first one, you're kind of taking the Cenobites and their stuff, putting them in a house with regular people, and crazy shit happens there. The second one, you're kind of stepping into their world. And it's basically this like abstract, like MC Escher painting kind of crazy world with like a bunch of just hellish scenes happening and creatures. And that's just like right up my alley for horror. I love a lot of the lore they establish. Some of it I don't, but I like a lot of what they do. Leviathan is a really cool idea they introduce. Dr. Chenard's a really great villain, and it gets a little goofy towards the end with the effects with him, but it's still really fun. It's a lot of really great horror stuff in it. I recommend it to anyone who likes the first one.
Yeah, I've only seen the first one. I really liked it. I saw it for the first time just a couple years ago, because I was told by a friend that I worked with, like, dude, what are you doing? You gotta watch this movie. So I'm looking forward to seeing the sequels. I hear they get a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs when they start to go straight to DVD, but that's okay. Looking forward to watching this one. Matt?
This is actually a franchise that I think I've seen the third one, and then I saw one of the direct-to-video ones where they just took another script and put Pinhead in the last 5 minutes of it. So, yeah, I need to get on this franchise.
Kirk, what about you?
Yeah, like Ethan said, we talked about this on Your List Sucks. For me, with horror movies and horror franchises, one of the most important things is rules, establishing the rules and following them. And I just hate, like, the first movie is pretty tight with, okay, this is what everything is. And this movie breaks a lot of those rules, and it annoys me. Maybe they fix that in later sequels, but I've only seen the first two, so I can let you know by that.
They break way more rules than you think in the sequels.
Boatman, what about you? You seen this?
No.
Fair enough. All right. Well, those are our 10 movies. We got Saw 2, Dr. Sleep, Dawn of the Dead, Scream 4, Gremlins 2, Paranormal Activity 3, Evil Dead 2, Bride of Frankenstein, New Nightmare, Hellraiser 2. Not a bad batch of movies, no pun intended. We're not going to try to rank these, I've decided, because a lot of us haven't seen a lot of them, aka me and Boatman haven't seen a lot of them. So we're going to just leave the list as is. Guys, like I said earlier, be sure to go to the Letterboxd page, Multiplex, log it, like the list, follow the page. We'll stay up to date with everything we got going on. So we're going to move on to the final section of the show. We're going to talk about the movie of the month. The movie of the month, we had you guys vote out of a list of movies. We're starting in June with the 2010s. You guys voted, and the movie you wanted to hear us talk about was Kubo and the Two Strings, released in 2016. I got a chance to rewatch this today. So I'll kind of give my thoughts first. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I saw it in the theater a couple times when it came out, and at that point, I hadn't really seen everything Laika yet. I had seen Box Trolls, and I think that might have been it. I hadn't seen Coraline. I hadn't seen what is it, Paranorman. So this was one of my first forays into Laika, and I loved it. I think the animation is brilliant. I'm a big proponent of 3D. I love 3D. This movie utilized 3D very, very well in the theater. I thought it was fantastic. I actually own the movie on 3D Blu-ray as well. It's gorgeous. I think the stop motion animation, it just looks really great. And when you know they're just putting all that work into it, it kind of just makes it all the better. And on top of it, I think the story is really, really cool. I like what they do with the story, with the like kind of rules of the world, and it just kind of feels like I haven't watched a lot of like samurai movies or stuff like that, but like it has like a tone and like a feel to it that I can really get behind, which means I would probably like that type of movie. But I just haven't gotten there yet either. But I really enjoyed it. I thought the cast is really good too. I thought Matthew McConaughey actually as the Beetle, and then the spoilers later on, his dad I think is pretty great. Charlize Theron, really great. Rooney Mara is really haunting as the sisters that are like chasing him the whole time. Ray Fiennes comes in at the last minute. I thought the cast was great. Animation's beautiful. Really cool story. I want to see Laika do more stuff like this because Box Trolls is fine. I didn't really love Coraline. I actually really liked Paranorman. I just watched that for the first time this last Halloween. And then what was they did the
Missing Link.
And that was just okay. So I kind of want to see them do more like this. I believe Travis Knight, who directed this, went on to make Bumblebee, and I actually really liked that too. So I would kind of like him to see him do more and maybe go back to animation, do something else with Laika. But I had a blast rewatching this movie. I'm excited to hear what everyone else thinks about. Boatman, you watched it for the first time, right? So what did you think about it?
Yeah, I had never seen this movie. This is the one that had been like on my radar, but I just never watched it for whatever reason. And I think fantastic. I was blown away by the animation. Like I knew like it had good animation because that's like what everyone talks about. It's like Laika looks beautiful. Wow. I didn't quite expect that. The film just looked fantastic. I understand now why this film got a Best Visual Effects Oscar nomination, which is rare for an animated movie. But it looks beautiful, so I get it. I felt like the story had a lot of great... I liked the themes more than I necessarily liked the sequence of events. I think there were some points where it got meandering, but when it more got back to the actual like drama and themes and like kind of what everything represents, I think that worked really well for me. So I do think and I think a lot of the comedy is really fun. Matthew McConaughey and Charlize Theron kind of arguing, and when you kind of realize what their dynamic actually is, it makes sense. So yeah, really great film. Glad I finally watched it.
And so I can put it on the letterbox, Bowman, what would you give this movie?
I would give 5 stars.
4.5?
No, 4.
4 out of 5 stars. Beautiful. Okay. All right, Queller, let's move on to you. Kubo and the Two Strings.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you guys said. The animation is beautiful in this film. I really like a lot of the ideas that it brings up, and I really love the monkey character. I think that was my favorite in it. I know there was remember some of the controversy of the casting when it first came out, but I thought everyone kind of did a pretty good job with it. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
What is your rating, Mr. Queller?
I believe I put it at 4 stars.
4 stars. All right. Kirk, what about you?
I love this movie. This is one of my favorite animated movies. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons player. And so when I watch fantasy movies, I tend to like kind of in my head break them down into their D&D components And if you don't play D&D, a lot of what I'm about to say probably won't make much sense to you. But basically, Kubo is the bard. And in D&D, the bard class is something that's very misunderstood. People tend to avoid it. They don't get it right. It's usually very much a side character. So you never see the bard. You very rarely see a bard in a movie at all or a TV show. You never see a bard presented on screen. And he's never the hero, and he's never kicking ass. Like and Kubo kicks a lot of ass. He's just such a great character, such a great action character. The Leica style is hit or miss for me. You miss more than hit, but I think it looks great in this movie. I love the origami. I love how his magic is, expressed through the origami. A lot of great scenes with that. I love the samurai, that like feudal Japanese aesthetic. That's one of my favorite period settings. The music, the score for this is great with that traditional Japanese music. The Regina Spektor cover of While My Guitar Gently Weeps over the credits is fantastic. It's an amazing cover. And yeah, just a lot of really great action set pieces when they're fighting like the big skeleton and the scene on the water and everything. Just a really fun fantasy action movie. I love it a lot. I give it 4 stars.
4 stars. All right. Ethan.
Yeah, I had seen this when it came out in theaters and not again since. And I remember I liked it. So when I rewatched it today, actually, I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. Stop motion is my favorite form of animation, and the movie is like breathtakingly beautiful. Like it is insane how good it looks and how they can do that with. I know it's like a mixture of stop motion and some CGI, but like it is just beautiful to watch. And I think that for the most part, the voice performance is really good. I like a lot of the action. The set pieces are great. The 2 sisters are like really creepy and really effective. I think for me, the story doesn't do it all the way for me. Some points. I'm not a huge fan of the ending with the grandfather. How that gets resolved. I don't really like that very much. But I like most of the other stuff in it. I think that, it's a kid's movie, so I can't really harp on this too much, but like the twist is like the most obvious thing ever. Yeah. But it is still fun. And the score is great. I think it's the same guy that did Paddington 2, at least. I'm not sure if he did both Paddingtons, but he's a good composer.
Paddington 2 is no longer the greatest movie ever made. So
right now it's Kubo and 2 Strings, apparently. Yeah. No, but yeah, I do like it. And I think it is the animation's like some of the best I've ever seen.
I like you said, I rewatching it today, I was like, yeah, this twist with the parents is a little like more telegraphed than I remember 5 years ago when I watched it last. But I will say I like, for not really liking like 3 of the 5 movies that they've made, I will say I really like how ballsy Leica gets with some stuff for being like kids movies. Like when after they fight like the sister, when they go to get the sword or whatever it is, and you think everything, like they defeat the sister, and you're like, oh, everything's gonna kind of maybe be fine and dandy, and then the beetle just gets like stabbed through the fucking chest. I was like, okay, I forgot about that, and that caught me off guard. So it's like I actually appreciate what they do with those types of things in these movies. But yeah, Kubo and the 2 Strings. What did you give it?
I would give it. So I don't do ratings in Letterboxd, but I would probably give it like a 3.5.
Okay. Boom. Officially logged on the logged it page. So beautiful. Okay. So guys, that is going to do it for our talk on Kubo and the 2 Strings. Next week, we will have another panel who will give us our thoughts on the movie. So be on the lookout for that. Coming up next week, June 8th, we got classic musicals. We're going to have Spence, Barr, Holtzman, me, and Boatman talking about musicals for a while. And that's going to be, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle it. But it's going to be a good time. That's going to be in honor of In the Heights coming out in a couple weeks. So be on the lookout next weekend. Or next week, Tuesday, for when we do that show. That's going to be very exciting. Other topics we have coming up, we got Talking Animals, movies about families, crime movies, female-led action movies, sequels that came 10-plus years later, animated characters. So lots of stuff coming up on the horizon for Logged It. But that's going to do it for us today. I want to thank Matt, Kirk, Ethan. Thank you guys for coming. Boatman, you were here late, but you made it. You finally made it. We appreciate it. This is a great show, so thank you guys for coming. We'll see you guys next week with classic musicals. Until then, have a good one.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening.